Okay, the next one, take God on a date. Take God on a date. We're in a church today. You're watching in churches all across America. And we would kind of assume sometimes in spiritual communities that people would be congruent with their spirituality and their relationship with God and their faith, and they would naturally date from that base, and a lot of people do. But at the same time, what I find, and I've worked with a lot of Christians over the years, that a lot of times, as the Bible predicts and describes, we actually compartmentalize our faith sometimes. And we tend to, I was talking to a guy I had dinner with a few months back, and he had begun to date this woman who didn't share his faith, and he liked her, but in the dating process, he had never really, in the beginning he shared his faith and he talked about his faith and his spiritual values and this, that, and the other. But when she didn't reciprocate, he started liking her so much that what he was able to do was compartmentalize his faith and put it into the background, thinking maybe she'll come around later, but he never talked about it again. He got more and more emotionally involved, and he ends up, moving in with her and figures out, well, I really love her and she's great, this, that, and the other. And he's on his way to propose when we have dinner. And there were a few of us at the dinner, and basically we were the, tie me to a tree group for him, and we just said, no, we're not allowing you to do this. And he said, well, I'm really torn anyway. He said, I can't imagine not being able to, with the person I marry, be able to, live out my faith, but she's so good and so wonderful and all of this. And we said, what are you thinking? It's not that necessarily, even if it weren't, quote, bad, it's just we wouldn't tell anybody to do that, because faith is a direction setter in life. When people marry across faiths, no matter what the faith is, if it's a shallow thing, like they check it on their driver's license, yeah, I'm one of these, but they don't practice it, it's one thing. But anybody that cares about their faith, that dictates a direction in life. It dictates how you spend your time, how you raise your children, what you do with your heart, what values are important to you, what you pursue in life, what you're going to spend your money on. And I've seen over and over and over where people are not on the same page there. It is a divisive path ahead of them. And we said, you can't do this. And he started crying. And he said, that's what I feel every day. He said, you're right, I can't do this. Now, most of you probably think that way, that's not something that you would do. But see, he didn't start out there. Where he started out to get there was in the gradual compartmentalization of his faith inside of him. And once he began to kind of talk about his faith and live out his faith, and saw that didn't match the relationship, he put his faith kind of on the back burner and let the relationship go forward without his faith, and it was compartmentalized. And that happens not only with a Christian and a non-Christian, I see, all the time, but I also see it happens with Christians, that what they do is they let their love and all of this stuff become more important than their spiritual life, which gets compartmentalized. And the spiritual life is what would make everything else work, and yet the very engine that's supposed to be driving the car is relegated to somewhere else where they can't find it. Do you know what the Latin word for diabolic is? The Latin word that means diabolic is the word that means to compartmentalize. Compartmentalize. That's just true. Think about any aspect of yourself. If it gets compartmentalized, it becomes a problem, right? If you take your love, for example, and you compartmentalize it away from your truth, you'll love in a destructive, codependent way. You'll fall in love, but you won't require the truth and standards and values out of people. For example, if you compartmentalize your desire for anything in life away from your values that would dictate how to live that out, that very desire will become impulsive and consume you and not have its proper place. If you take grace and compartmentalize it from truth, then we have license. If you take truth and compartmentalize it from love, then we have judgment. And here's what happens in dating. People take romance and they compartmentalize it away from their spiritual values. And you know what the big problem I see in the Christian community dating is? That the one value that you hear about, and which is an important one, and we have a whole section on it later, the one value you hear about, preached to singles over and over and over, is sexual responsibility. And so they think if I am doing Christian dating, then that means that I'm morally I have integrity. But that's like a couple of verses in a big Bible. And the Bible has a lot more to your spiritual life than just that aspect of morality, which is a key one, as we'll see, in dating, and an important one. But I want you to bring the rest of your spiritual values into your dating as well. Your commitment to God, your hunger for Him, your processing life with Him, your honesty, your weakness, your brokenness, your frailties, your imperfections, all of what it means to be a spiritual learner and grower. If that's in your dating life, then you find different kinds of dates. And if that's in your dating life, the ones that come to your dating life who don't have that, then they get with the program or they go away. And see, that's what should have happened with my friend. If he had been who he was spiritually the whole time, he would be light and salt, as Jesus said. And there might have been a chance where she would have come around, but he never would have fallen in love with her because he couldn't if the most important thing to him was God. He would have been bored with her and he would have moved on, or she would have thought that he was some religious freako and moved on herself. But he didn't do that. Okay? So take God on a date.